I just think it's amazing.
It's a wonderful subject. It's full of intrinsic interest.
It's an incredibly violent, dangerous place.
Everything that you look at is beautiful.
Possibly the very first time I looked through a modern telescope, which was only 4 or 5 years ago, one of the first things I looked at was the moon. And that just blew me away. The section of the moon we were looking at was the lunar Alps, and you really can see the mountains. They are absolutely perfect little miniature mountains that you see through the telescope. And it's just fantastic to think that you're looking at something 250,000 miles away and you can see such detail on the surface of the moon.
The very, very first time I looked at Jupiter through a telescope that was a reasonable size telescope, because it's stunning. Followed very closely by Saturn. To look at Jupiter and see all the clouds on Jupiter and the red spot and the moons that are all totally different from one another is just something that is awe-inspiring.
Well, I think space itself is wonderful. People think of empty space as pretty boring, but that's not at all true. Einstein taught us in the early 20th century that gravity isn't due to forces, as we used to be taught in school, but it's due to a curvature of the geometry of space. So the old Newtonian idea of a force of gravity is out, and has been since about 1915, 1916, and what's in its place is the idea that space is curved and objects in space, like planets and so on, move in the way they do because they're responding to the curvature of space and time. The idea that space, just ordinary old empty space, the thing I wave my arms around in, is curved. That's amazing. And I think that's one of the greatest wonders of the universe. It's not one of the most spectacular visually, but just in my mind, it does extraordinary things to my brain to try even thinking about curved space. One very big misconception is that astronomy is cold, that it takes the romance out of the world or out of the whole universe, and I think that's absolutely not true. The more we understand things in the astronomical universe, the more wonderful they become. It's great to see surface beauty. Anybody can appreciate that in astronomy. But when you really look underneath the skin, when you find out how these things work and you see the intricate magnificence of a star, how does a star work inside? What holds a planet together? What stops it from falling in on itself? All of those things are tremendously deep questions with wonderful answers. Answers that have only become accessible to us in the 20th and 21st centuries. So it's been a great period for anybody with an interest in science of any kind, but for those with an interest in astronomy, the ability to access space, to get above the Earth's atmosphere so that we have a clear and undiluted view of the night sky, and a view now at many different wavelengths. We can look in light, we can use different kinds of radiation like X-rays or infrared radiation, radio waves, and that ability to take different kinds of views of objects has so much increased our ability to understand what's going on, to gather evidence that supports our theories, or even more importantly, refutes our theories and tells us to think again. That's been the really significant step forward in my professional career.
It's enormously popular suddenly. The Stargazing Live series of programs, which have been going now, I think they're coming into their third year in 2013, have sparked an enormous resurgence of interest in the subject. Telescope sales have rocketed, apparently. Certainly membership of the Wickham Astronomical Society has taken a very steep rise over the last couple of years. And it's great to see. I mean, we've had a lot of inquiries from scout groups, schools, and when and if we can actually show them something, if the weather actually stays fine enough, the enthusiasm is absolutely wonderful.
I would bring them in here at night when we've got a nice clear sky and say, have a look through this telescope. And that really is the thing that will either encourage you to get involved or not.
Show them the mountains on the moon, Jupiter and its 4 major satellites, Saturn with its rings, which is just a fabulous sight, and leave it to that.
If I were looking for a fact to inflame the imagination of somebody new to astronomy, I think the most amazing thing that I can instantly think of is the fact that we human beings are partly made of stardust. That we, of course, as everybody knows, are made of atoms and molecules. And some of those atoms, the individual atoms of which our bodies are composed, came from inside stars. Our universe is over 13 billion years old. During that time, matter has moved around a lot. Individual atoms have moved around a lot. We know, for instance, that essentially all the gold atoms in the universe were created inside stars. That's the only place that gold atoms are made. So if you have any gold jewelry on your body, you're certainly wearing something that came from inside a star. The universe isn't just a bunch of stars and planets spread out through empty space. It's a whole interacting system. Space isn't where things happen, it's a player in the drama of the universe. The stuff in the universe interacts with the space and the time of the universe itself. So it's this whole package coming together. And thinking about the universe in that grand way, thinking about the content of the universe, not individual atom by atom or even planet by planet, but in terms of great elements of the universe, really big volumes of space, time and matter and radiation, that inevitably leads to some kind of relationship with the universe. You have to see the universe as a sort of friend, even if you're battling to understand what that friend's trying to tell you.